Chapter 1721. Yi Qinghan cultivated during the day and taught Qin Xianxian at night. Qin Fenghua lost interest after observing for half a month. When Qin Xianxian told Qin Fenghua that Yi Qinghan taught her the origin of fire, Qin Fenghua stopped teaching her. 2 months later, Qin Xuanxuan's wisdom came into play. She had fully grasped the mysteries of the 13th grade divine fire. She could conjure fire with a wave of her hand and condense it into a sword. She was already capable of fighting. However, she was still a long way from becoming a divine pill master. The final step was a world of difference. However, there was no time to waste. The pill master competition would be held at the Eternal Sword's Sacred Grounds Holy City. However, the teleportation formation couldn't send people to the Holy City. It could only be sent to Lookout City. Hence, it was also called Liao City. Liao City was about a month's journey from the Holy City. This was to prevent the war from escalating and directly attacking the Holy City. The layout of the city and the teleportation formation were carefully thought out. On this day, Qin Fenghua found Qin Xianxian and Yi Qinghan. He smiled and said, "Mr. Yang, the Pill Master competition will be held next month. We can depart now. Please forgive us for the difficult journey." Yi Qinghan looked at Qin Xianxian helplessly. They were always short on time. Qin Xianxian was smart and diligent. She had not only comprehended the 13th grade divine fire, but also learned some alchemy techniques. She had memorized nearly 1,000 13th grade pill recipes. She had also memorized the recipes of the 14th grade boundary condensing pill and the 14th grade soul amassing pill. However, she couldn't concoct a 14th grade divine pill. Her cauldron would even explode if she tried. Try harder on the journey. There's only one step left. It might be more difficult, Yi Qinghan said in a low voice. Qin Xuanxuan's face was filled with excitement. She had never felt such a sense of accomplishment. She wanted to comprehend the 14th grade divine fire. Not only did she want to become a divine pill master, but she also wanted to prove to Yi Qinghan that she was the best among women. Her wisdom was also worthy of him. Qin Xianxian didn't follow them. She stayed behind to guard Fire Beacon City. Qin Xianxian no longer coveted Yi Qinghan's control over Fire Beacon City. Her goal had changed. Now, she wanted to steal Yi Qinghan's arrogant heart and make herself his one and only. The three of them used the teleportation array to distort space and time. In just half a day, they arrived outside the city gate of Liao City. Liao City stood tall. Standing on the observation deck, one could control the endless space. One could even see the fireworks in the sky above Liao City. Yi Qinghan wore a bamboo hat and carried the dark gold rod on his back, but it was wrapped in oilcloth. Qin Fenghua didn't know that it was a divine weapon used by a terrifying half-step eternal sovereign. At that time, the half-step eternal sovereign, Yi Qinghan, who loved excitement, would have taken away his divine weapon. Qin Fenghua was afraid that he wouldn't have intervened in that battle. Qin Fenghua said, "You guys wait for me outside the city. I will go to the city and buy a first-class carriage. You guys can cultivate in the carriage while I drive." For the sake of having a godly alchemist in his family, Qin Fenghua had already given it his all. What was faced to him? What was a coachman worth? A divine alchemist could preserve the glory of a family for countless years. Even if he reached the end of his life, he could still carry on his will. The Fire Beacon City would not change its name. Yi Qinghan and Qin Xianxian stood not far from the city. Taking advantage of the free time, he passed on his experience of comprehending a level 14 divine fire to Qin Xianxian. What? Yi Qinghan's big hand wrapped around Qin Xuanxuan's jade-like hand. The flame in his hand wrapped around Qin Xuanxuan's arm. Qin Xianxian felt as if she had been struck by lightning. She tried to shake off Yi Qinghan's hand, but that pair of big hands held her tightly. She couldn't break free and could only let the level 14 divine fire burn her. Her entire body was almost ignited. "It hurts. I'm going to die." Qin Xuanxuan's face turned ferocious. Her body twisted, and her soul almost disappeared in an instant. This is the lowest temperature of a level 14 divine fire. Bear with it. I will slowly raise the temperature until you get used to it. Yi Qinghan's voice became gentle. It was indeed terrifying to let someone who didn't use their divine power to defend themselves come into contact with a level 14 divine fire. Moreover, she was a girl. The flame became transparent, and the surrounding heat waves rolled away. An invisible pressure enveloped an area of 10 meters. Many people subconsciously distanced themselves from the two. But Qin Xianxian couldn't bear the pain. She pounced on Yi Qinghan and bit his arm. Yi Qinghan frowned. He didn't dare to use his divine power to defend himself. Otherwise, he would break her sharp teeth. Qin Xuanxuan's tears wet her bamboo hat. She slowly got used to the lowest temperature and finally began to comprehend the mysteries of the divine fire. Not long after, Qin Fenghua drove a horse carriage out of the city. There were two giant beasts driving the carriage. The carriage was very big. It was big enough for Yi Qinghan and Qin Xianxian to cultivate and comprehend the divine fire. Get in. We will rush to Sword Path Saint City as soon as possible. You will have enough time to comprehend the level 14 divine fire. Qin Fenghua glanced at Yi Qinghan's hand. He didn't stop his impolite action. Yi Qinghan withdrew the heat. The flames only wrapped around the two's hands. Shua! Yi Qinghan stepped onto the carriage and carried Qin Xianxian inside. The interior of the carriage was very spacious. It was as big as a room. It had its own soundproof enchantment and defensive array. A peak attack from a Sector Lord Level 7 expert might not be able to break through the defenses. Yi Qinghan waved his hand and closed the door. He sealed the windows and activated the defensive array. The carriage moved quickly as if it was moving on flat ground. It rushed into the distance at lightning speed. In the vast Sword Path Eternal World, there were many official roads. Every road led to Saint City. It was as prosperous as the Holy Empire of Middle-earth. Countless people yearned to go there. However, not everyone had the right to live there. The blue sky and white jade seemed to be able to touch the rolling clouds with a wave of one's hand. They headed north and passed through the Sword Forest mountain range. They then turned east and traveled for 20 days to reach Saint City. Qin Fenghua couldn't be more familiar with this road. He waved his whip and rushed north. Countless mountains in the Sword Forest mountain range were like stone swords piercing into the clouds. Mountains that were hundreds of meters tall could be seen everywhere. There were steep cliffs that couldn't be climbed. Some of the cliffs were deep and the official roads were winding like dragons. Yi Qinghan almost hugged Qin Xianxian in his arms. He wanted to prevent her from struggling and interrupting her comprehension. Qin Xianxian wriggled her snake-like waist. Her soft and boneless skin could be clearly felt through her clothes. The fragrance of her virginity carried an endless amount of yin energy that could be transmitted into Yi Qinghan's body. Yi Qinghan's mind trembled. He almost lost control. He opened his eyes and took a deep breath. He withdrew his evil thoughts. Don't move. Otherwise, I won't be able to take it. Yi Qinghan reminded her in a muffled voice. Qin Xianxian was in so much pain that she couldn't control herself. When she heard Yi Qinghan's words, her pain was alleviated. After all, they were intimate every day. However, he didn't have any desire. She was starting to doubt her own charm. She felt the heat from Yi Qinghan below her. Instead of being shy, she was excited. However, she didn't dare to move anymore. At this moment, the horse carriage came to a sudden stop. Yi Qinghan jerked forward, and the scorching hot divine rod almost shattered his divine robe. Qin Xuanxuan's left hand pushed against the door and bounced back. He sat down on Yi Qinghan's waist, completely breaking the pillar that supported the sky. This time, it wasn't Qin Xianxian who was in pain. It was Yi Qinghan. Chapter 1722. Yi Qinghan groaned as he held onto Qin Xuanxuan's small waist. He was in so much pain that he was sweating profusely. His manhood was almost destroyed. Sorry, I didn't do it on purpose. Qin Xianxian awkwardly stretched out her hand to touch that stick, but she stopped in front of her face. Yi Qinghan's mouth twitched. If this stick was destroyed, there wouldn't be any fun in this life. What? Yi Qinghan waved his hand to disperse the flames and open the window. He frowned and asked, Old Qin, what's the matter? Why did you suddenly stop? Just at this moment, many people rushed over from afar. Quick, retreat. There's a mysterious flame spreading in front. Even Sector Lord Level 5 experts would be burned to ashes if they touched it. A hurried voice rang out, causing everyone to retreat faster and faster. Old Qin was also unhappy, but the road ahead was blocked. Who knew how many people were retreating and couldn't move forward at all? Yi Qinghan opened the car door and retracted the flames after adjusting his breathing. He walked out and grabbed a supreme god with a decent cultivation. What mysterious flame! It instantly burned a Sector Lord Level 5 expert to death. Did you see it with your own eyes? I didn't see it. I heard that the flame is purple. That supreme god hurriedly replied. Bullshit. I heard that it's black. That Sector Lord Level 5 expert would be burned to ashes if he touched it. Not even his bones would be left. At this moment, a Sector Lord Level expert rushed over from the front. He was a Sector Lord Level 2 expert and had decent cultivation. However, from his tone, he must have been scared off before he saw the flame. 3 people could make a tiger. Just by scaring them, they could scare off many people. Black flame? Yi Qinghan let go of that supreme god and muttered to himself. He had already controlled a level 14 god flame, but he had never heard of a black flame. Don't listen to their nonsense. I've lived for so long and have never heard of any black flame. Besides, the alchemy master competition is just around the corner. Who knows how many alchemists and divine alchemists will be participating in the competition? There are definitely more than 30 to 50 alchemists on this path. They should be happy to see the flames. Why would they be scared away? Qin Fenghua angrily kicked away a powerhouse who was blocking the carriage's path. He coldly reprimanded, "Get out of my way, all of you." Suddenly, a blood-curdling scream rang out from the Sword Forest mountain range. Purple River City's alchemist Sui has been burned to death. An exceptionally mournful voice rang out, causing those panicking people to panic even more and almost fall off the cliff. The carriage blocked the entrance of the Sword Forest mountain range, making it even harder for the pedestrians to retreat. Yi Qinghan and Qin Fenggo were in disbelief. They wanted to drive through the crowd, but they could not move forward. However, not long after, another blood-curdling scream rang out, causing the terrified crowd to panic even more. Many people were pushed off the cliff, falling to their deaths. The divine alchemist of the Yawang Mountain has been burned to death. Flames are seeping out from a cave. This sentence caused Yi Qinghan's pupils to shrink. Even a divine alchemist was burned to death. What kind of flame was that? Was it a 5th-grade divine flame? Whoosh! Yi Qinghan stepped on the air, stepping on the heads of the crowd as he rushed towards the Sword Forest mountain range. More and more people were rushing backwards, and it was extremely crowded. There were constantly experts being forcefully blasted off the cliff. At a bend, about 1,000 meters east, there was a mountain tunnel. There was a cave in the sky, and the cave was emitting blue flames. The rocks were constantly turning into liquid, sealing the entire tunnel. The blue flames fell down the tunnel, and it would definitely ignite if touched. Some divine alchemists were nearby and wanted to collect some of the flames, but they all failed. Yi Qinghan looked at the beautiful blue flames and was astonished. The divine bird also stretched its head out to take a look, but it had never seen such flames before. It doesn't seem to have any temperature. The divine bird said in astonishment. Yi Qinghan nodded. He also didn't feel any high temperature. This flame was actually able to burn a 5th-level Sector Lord expert to death, and even a divine alchemist. It was simply unimaginable. Just as Yi Qinghan was wondering, another god alchemist boldly walked towards the blue flames with a glass jade bottle in his hand. He reached out his hand to collect a drop of flame, but the jade bottle was directly melted and the blue flames smashed onto his feet. Before he could react, the blue flames instantly burned and swallowed him whole. The mournful scream caused everyone's hair to stand on end. The divine bird trembled and directly entered Yi Qinghan's blood and qi, turning into a trace of imprint and never coming out again. CSISI. The surrounding divine alchemists took in a cold breath and looked at the blue flames with fear. They didn't dare to test it anymore and quickly retreated. Not far from the corner, they saw Yi Qinghan wearing a conical bamboo hat and black clothes. They reminded him coldly, The path ahead has already been melted. We divine alchemists can't do anything to that flame. You better not send yourself to death." After saying that, the 6 divine alchemists and a few high-level divine alchemists left the place. After they retreated, Yi Qinghan stepped towards the blue flames. His eyes flashed with light, and he was full of confidence. His physical body had been tempered thousands of times, and his control over the divine fire had surpassed the divine alchemists. Chapter 1724. Yi Qinghan was in so much pain that he could not speak. He almost broke Qin Xuanxuan's wrist, but in the end he let go. It was clear that his will would not be influenced by external things. Seeing Yi Qinghan in such pain and despair, Qin Xianxian felt an indescribable pain in his heart. The beast stepped across the Sword Forest mountain range as if it was flying. It almost flew into the sky and chased after the stars and moon at lightning speed. It did not sleep or rest. After traveling for more than half a month and 2/3 of the journey, the beast could not take it anymore and had to stop for a while. There were 3 realm lords and 2 terrifying existences in Yi Qinghan and Qin Fenghua. They did not have to worry about being stopped by bandits. Moreover, this was already the hinterland of the human race. It was not too dangerous. Therefore, Qin Fenghua stopped the carriage in a valley and found a place to sit down and start a fire. Yi Qinghan did not come down from the carriage. Instead, he sat cross-legged in the carriage and tried to comprehend the blue demonic fire in his body. Although he could hide it in his body, he could not subdue it. It was filled with destruction and hostility. It almost penetrated Yi Qinghan's body. The surface of his body was emitting blue light. At this moment, he did not even look like a human. Yi Qinghan formed a seal with his palms. His 2 middle fingers overlapped and pressed on his forehead. He was trying his best to suppress the blue demonic fire. His internal organs were almost cooked. The divine bird was the first to be unable to bear it. It ran out directly, followed by the multicolored snake, the star-twining vine, and the other divine pets. However, the little golden crow was eagerly devouring the extreme yang fire elements in Yi Qinghan's body. It could even slowly devour the terrifying blue flame demon fire. Moreover, the blue flame demon fire couldn't cause any substantial harm to it. If it was not for the little golden crow helping to absorb the essence of the blue demonic fire that was scattered all over Yi Qinghan's body, he probably would have died even if he had 9 lives. The divine bird was rolling around in the carriage. It wanted to rush out and take a stroll. However, Qin Fenghua was outside and staring at the carriage. It did not have the chance to go out. "I'm going crazy." The divine bird sighed. It lay on the back of the god-devourer eagle and lazily flapped its wings. "Which one of you can lure that old thing away? I'll go find some treasures for you guys," the divine bird said wretchedly. But no one was a fool. Could that old thing outside be an ordinary person? Once they went out, they would be exposed. Yi Qinghan's identity would also be exposed. Therefore, the rainbow snake and the other divine pets shook their heads and rejected the divine bird's suggestion. However, the divine bird kept chattering beside Yi Qinghan. The rainbow snake flicked its tongue and turned into a wisp of imprint that rushed into Yi Qinghan's consciousness. It told Yi Qinghan everything that had happened. Yi Qinghan could not help but look out of the valley. He was sure that the divine bird must have sold him out. He thought to himself, "I can't let Qin Fenghua know my identity." Yi Qinghan put on his bamboo hat. He ignored the stinging pain all over his body and stepped out of the carriage. He said to Qin Fenghua and Qin Xianxian, "I have something to do. I'll be back soon. Just wait for me here." After that, without waiting for Qin Fenghua to nod, Yi Qinghan rushed out of the valley. His consciousness swept forward and soon found the traces of the divine bird and Mu Zun. At this moment, the divine bird was standing on Mu Zun's shoulder, fawning over him in a way that was unprecedented in the past and would never be seen again. Yi Qinghan exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. He carried the dark gold rod and rushed to the vicinity of a spacious cliff. The blue demon fire in his body was burning wildly. Especially after he used his divine power, the temperature of the flames was even higher. Even his bones were about to be melted. Yi Qinghan did not dare to move. He clutched his chest as if thousands of ants were gnawing at his heart. His body was emitting a blue light, and he was in extreme pain. Yi Qinghan waved his hand and scattered the insect queen and the insect queen. The insect queen filled the entire valley. Now, he could only rely on the insect queen to kill Mu Zun. Mu Zun had also noticed Yi Qinghan. He could feel that Yi Qinghan couldn't even stand steadily. He reckoned that what the divine bird said was true. Therefore, he sped up and arrived in front of Yi Qinghan in the time it took for an incense stick to burn. Their eyes met, and there was a trace of ruthlessness in each of their eyes. Back then, so many people failed to catch you. Now that I've caught you alone, it seems that I can't run away from the identity of a 9-star bounty hunter, Mu Zun said excitedly. Mu Zun was caught off guard. Looking at Yi Qinghan's miserable appearance, he was wild with joy. Yi Qinghan's face was pale. The blue light was terrifying, especially his eyes, which became somewhat frightening. It seems that you dare to eat and touch anything to heal your injuries. You can't blame others for seeking death. Today, this old man can show filial respect to 2 supreme eternal sovereigns at the same time. Mu Zun laughed complacently. He waved his hand and grabbed Yi Qinghan. Qin Xuanxuan's soul was in a daze. He could no longer hear Yi Qinghan's words. He felt as if his heart was being eaten by thousands of ants and countless insects were gnawing away at his flesh. The desire to live will allow you to comprehend the profound mysteries of the fire source. Only in the face of death will your world be enlightened. Everything in front of you is just an illusion. Yi Qinghan's voice reverberated in the carriage and rushed into Qin Xuanxuan's consciousness. Qin Xianxian finally calmed down. The frequency and amplitude of the distortion had decreased. However, because of this slow frequency, there was still friction. Can you stop moving? Yi Qinghan growled in a low voice. I can't help it. Qin Xianxian gritted her teeth. He wanted to cry but no tears came out. Whoosh! The fire was still burning. The 14th grade divine fire burned Qin Xuanxuan's divine armor into nothingness, causing her to shake her body even more violently. If not for the fact that the carriage was too small, Yi Qinghan would definitely have lifted her up. Even if you can't help it, you have to bear with it. This is for your own good. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan increased the intensity of the divine fire, almost burning the Dharma and logos of order in her body into nothingness. Her screams were endless. This kind of cultivation was too painful. However, she did not know that Yi Qinghan had been enduring this for a long time. Otherwise, his cultivation level would not have increased so quickly. Qin Xianxian was dazed by the burning. Seeing Yi Qinghan's strength, she could not help but suck in a breath of cold air and almost pass out. Yi Qinghan saw that Qin Xianxian could not take it anymore. He had no choice but to use a simpler method, one that was comfortable and fast. Naturally, it was the win-win method. Yi Qinghan's eyes glowed with blue flames. He penetrated deep into Qin Xuanxuan's divine palace. His touch was as soft as water, and he could not help but linger. Yi Qinghan's blood was boiling. It was as if thousands of horses were galloping. The scorching heat made Qin Xuanxuan's body go limp. She collapsed in the carriage. Yi Qinghan's body shook and his divine robes were shattered. The record of yin-yang was withdrawn and returned to his body. His strong body exuded an indescribable aggressiveness and wildness. Qin Xianxian couldn't help but swallow his saliva as his hands fell limply to the ground. Master, Qin Xuanxuan's soft voice gave Yi Qinghan the illusion that Emperor Yi had returned. His mind was in a mess, and his vision was distorted. It was as if the person beneath him was Emperor Yi, not Qin Xianxian. I can't take it anymore. Yi Qinghan growled. In a spurt of energy, he completely occupied the divine palace. Qin Xianxian was completely convinced. He could not withstand Yi Qinghan's crazy attacks. Qin Fenghan was driving the carriage. At this moment, his emotions were surging. And now, after entering Eternal World, you have offended the bounty hunters. If you surpass me, forget Eternal World, you won't even have a place in a minor world. You really are a jinx. Ha, why doesn't your divine pet come out? I want to see. Qin Xianxian stared at Yi Qinghan curiously. Forget it. I have suppressed it in my bloodline. If it comes out, you will be the one crying. When Yi Qinghan thought of the divine bird, he could not help but smile. This fellow was too despicable. Their cooperation had improved. Otherwise, it would have been very difficult to subdue someone like Mu Zun. Qin Xianxian did not believe it. She pestered Yi Qinghan and insisted on seeing the divine bird. Yi Qinghan had no choice but to throw the divine bird out. The divine bird looked at Yi Qinghan with disdain. The look in its eyes was very unique. Where's my blue divine flower? The divine bird stretched out its little claw and asked. It is poisonous and very dangerous. I will keep it for you. When you need it, I will give it to you, Yi Qinghan replied lazily. Who are you trying to fool? Don't you know that I am the master of deceiving people? The divine bird asked angrily. I don't care. I worked so hard to get it. I was almost caught by that old man Mu Zun because of it. Therefore, I must have a share of the pills refined from that divine flower. Yi Qinghan knew that he could not fool it. He could only shrug and say, okay, no problem. That is the sky-purifying evil flame flower. It is an essential ingredient for the longevity pill. If the longevity pill is refined, I will give you one. Qin Xianxian watched the divine pet and its master bargaining. He liked the divine bird even more. He reached out to hug it, but the divine bird avoided him in disdain. It said mockingly, I don't like women with big breasts and no brains. Don't taint my pure body and noble soul. When Qin Xianxian heard this, he was furious. He reached out to grab the divine bird. Chapter 1731. Yi Qinghan and Qin Fenghua walked side by side. The streets were very clean. The government did not allow the sale of elixirs or treasures on the plank roads. Otherwise, it would be banned. This rule made some businesses flourish. Adventurers could not sell their treasures at high prices. They could only sell them at low prices to the businesses. Every business was crowded. However, those who could open a business here were all people with strong backgrounds. They had connections with the government. No one dared to cause trouble in the city. Qin Fenghua found a few inns, but they were all full. He could not find a place to stay. He was a little anxious. In the end, he had to find an inn through his friend from the government. He was given 3 rooms. After Yi Qinghan checked in, he and Qin Xianxian practiced the dual cultivation technique. He helped her to fully understand the origin of fire. He was also trying his best to conquer the blue demonic flame. He did not show up for 3 days. Qin Fenghua was furious. After all, men and women should not touch each other. A man and a woman alone in a room. If word got out, his reputation would be ruined. Unfortunately, Qin Fenghua did not know how happy Qin Xianxian was. She was enjoying the peak of both her body and soul. She wanted to hang on Yi Qinghan and not come down. On the 3rd day, Yi Qinghan and Qin Xianxian were naked. They hugged each other and caressed each other's skin. Their eyes were filled with excitement. The room was filled with extravagance. Qin Xianxian was no longer shy. She took the initiative to snuggle into Yi Qinghan's arms. Her slender legs were wrapped around Yi Qinghan's. Her eyes were filled with admiration and love. She said, Master, I feel like I'm going to fly. You can't fly yet. There are only 2 days before the competition. In 2 days, you have to make 50 cauldrons of boundary-breaking pills and soul-amassing pills. You have to make sure that the success rate is more than 50%. If you want to be in the top 3, you have to make sure that you can make supreme quality elixirs. You have to ask your grandpa for the materials. You have to spend a lot of money to become an alchemist. Ordinary families could not afford to spend so much money. Even a big force like Fire Beacon City could not cultivate an alchemist. If Yi Qinghan did not help Qin Xianxian improve her origin of fire and guide her in alchemy, she would have to spend a lot of money. Qin Xianxian was speechless. She got dressed and left the room to ask Qin Fenghua for the materials. Buy Yi, buy Qin Fenghua. Even a few million. That was 1% of the alchemists. Buy. Buy. Qin Fenghua left the inn quickly. He spent 2 hours to buy more than 10 sets of materials. This was because he used his connections. After all, it was the alchemist competition. Many alchemists had gathered. They needed to accumulate experience. Now, the price of materials was high. Ordinary alchemists could only watch others compete. They could not buy too many materials themselves. When they returned to the inn, they realized that there was no alchemy room. It was impossible to concoct pills in the room. In a hurry, Qin Fenghua brought the two of them to a family of his good friend, the Yu clan. The Yu clan was not small. There was a realm lord level 8 expert in the clan. There was also a guest alchemist in the clan. The Yu clan head, Yu Zongsheng, heard that Qin Fenghua was here. He personally went out to welcome them with a smile. Yi Qinghan sized Yu Zongsheng up. His cultivation had reached the pinnacle of realm lord level 8. He should be from the same generation as Qin Fenghua. His lifespan was nearing its end. He was probably only a few tens of thousands of years away from the end of his life. He was not much better than Yi Qinghan. He was a hero past his prime. His past glory was gone. Now, he treated people very politely. Even when talking to Qin Xianxian and Yi Qinghan, his tone was very gentle. "Brother Qin, long time no see. I didn't expect to see you again in my lifetime." Yu Zongsheng sighed. Qin Fenghua's face was also sad. He pulled Yu Zongsheng's wrinkled hand and said in a low voice, "Brother Yu, we are all people with one foot in the grave. We have no choice but to come out personally for our clansmen. Isn't this the alchemist competition? My granddaughter received help from an expert and became a god alchemist. We want to borrow your place to concoct some pills. If she can become a true god alchemist and pull the Alchemist Association to Fire Beacon City, even if we leave, our families can still survive for a while." "What? Miss Xianxian has become a god alchemist?" Yu Zongsheng's shocked expression was mixed with joy. He stared at Qin Xianxian and Yi Qinghan in disbelief. Qin Xuanchuan's face was full of arrogance, but he still said respectfully to Yu Zongsheng, "Grandpa Yu, I heard that you carried me when I was born. I will kowtow to you now." After saying that, Qin Xianxian quickly knelt down and kowtowed. This was already considered the most solemn etiquette. "Ha!" Yu Zongsheng was overjoyed. He quickly helped Qin Xianxian up and stared at Yi Qinghan. Although he couldn't see through Yi Qinghan's special bamboo hat, he could tell that Yi Qinghan was not an ordinary person. To be able to cultivate a god alchemist, he must be at least a level 9 god alchemist. "How should I address you?" Yu Zongsheng cupped his fists and asked. Yi Qinghan bowed and replied, "Yu Clan Village. You can call me Little Yang or Jingtian." Yu Zongsheng didn't expect Yi Qinghan to be so easy to talk to. He smiled and led the three of them into the Yu Clan village. Yi Qinghan saw the light in Yu Zongsheng's eyes. He didn't have any evil intentions. It seemed like there was something he wanted to discuss. This flame could instantly burn a mid-level godly alchemist expert to death. As for Nanyuan Zhengbei, he was even more aware of how terrifying this flame was. It was the blue flame demonic flame that no one had ever conquered. Pluck. Nanyuan Zhengbei directly knelt in front of Yi Qinghan and said respectfully, "Mister, please teach the student how to control this flame. From today onwards, I will follow you as your servant. I won't regret it even if I die." Yi Qinghan didn't dare to accept such a huge bow. He could control the flame to the extreme, but any great god alchemist could teach him alchemy. Seeing Nanyuan Zhengbei kneel, he immediately jumped up and dodged. He pulled Nanyuan Zhengbei up from the side. "Senior, please don't make me feel bad. How can I accept your bow?" Yi Qinghan immediately said, "Mister, if this student doesn't break through to the Saint Alchemist realm, I will be facing the end of my lifespan. This student sincerely seeks your guidance and is willing to serve you for the rest of my life. Please take pity on me, Mr. Teacher." Nanyuan Zhengbei said in despair. Yi Qinghan wanted to smack his head. If he could teach, why wouldn't he? Wasn't this just giving him a saint alchemist? He would be a bastard if he refused. However, he couldn't teach him. If he didn't have the ability, he only had 2 pill recipes. If it was refining the breaking barrier pill and the soul amassing pill, there weren't many people who could compare to him. However, he didn't know any of the other high-grade pills. Left with no choice, Yi Qinghan could only agree verbally. At most, he would teach him how to control the blue flame demon fire. They could discuss it further. If he could really help him become a saint alchemist, it meant that his opportunity had arrived. If he couldn't, he could only say that he wasn't destined to have this opportunity. After receiving Yi Qinghan's verbal agreement, Nanyuan Zhengbei cried tears of joy. However, he didn't know that what Yi Qinghan said was the truth. It was just his own wishful thinking. After staying in the Yu clan for a day, Qin Xianxian finally recovered to his peak state. His mental strength had increased tremendously and could be compared to a normal divine alchemist. However, it was impossible for him to get a good result in the alchemist competition. It was even more impossible for him to win against Su Zhongxiao. Xianxian, let me introduce you. This is Elder Nanyuan Zhengbei from Nanyuan City. He is a level 9 divine alchemist. Let him teach you tonight. Maybe there will be a shortcut. Yi Qinghan said as he pointed at Nanyuan Zhengbei. Qin Xianxian was instantly overjoyed. He quickly showed off his skills to Nanyuan Zhengbei and refined a batch of breaking barrier pills. Half of them were middle-grade pills, a third of them were high-grade pills, and the rest were low-grade pills. I don't deserve it, Yi Qinghan said seriously. Nanyuan Zhengbei laughed bitterly. It's natural that teacher isn't willing to teach me. This old man only wishes to see teacher give me a chance to practice. Yi Qinghan was embarrassed by Nanyuan Zhengbei's words. His face turned red and his body felt numb. All right, my pill refinement skills aren't as good as yours. However, I might be able to give you some pointers on controlling the fire origin. Yi Qinghan was very confident in his control of the fire origin. Those so-called saint alchemy masters were probably on the same level as him. Even if they were stronger, they wouldn't be that much stronger. Nanyuan Zhengbei was overjoyed when he heard this. He immediately bowed and looked at Yi Qinghan with anticipation. Yi Qinghan stood up and grabbed at the air. Blue demon flame appeared in his palm. He crossed his hands and the flames spread. There wasn't any sense of heat and it didn't burn anything. However, only Yi Qinghan knew that this ball of flame could instantly burn a Sector Lord level 8 expert to death. Wah! The blue demon flame got close to the cauldron. The cauldron almost couldn't withstand such a temperature. This was the result of Yi Qinghan intentionally suppressing it. Woo woo woo! Flames shot out in all directions. As the energy swayed, countless fire origin entered the cauldron. The impurities within were instantly burned to nothing. Xiu xiu xiu. Yi Qinghan placed the ingredients into the cauldron step by step. They were instantly melted into liquid. The temperature continued to drop, but the medicinal properties weren't burned to nothing. Yi Qinghan's control of the temperature had reached the extreme. If it was someone else controlling a grade 15 god flame to burn a grade 14 god herb, the herb's medicinal properties would have been burned long ago. Others would need at least 2 hours to concoct a cauldron of soul-gathering pills. However, Yi Qinghan was able to lower the temperature and condense the pills in just half an incense's time. The aroma surged into the sky and actually rushed out of the room. Nanyuan Zhengbei's pupils constricted and he took in a cold breath. At this moment, he was certain that this cauldron of soul-gathering pills had surpassed the limit. He couldn't concoct it himself. As expected, Yi Qinghan formed seals with his palms. The temperature instantly dropped to ice. The entire cauldron had no temperature at all. Nanyuan Zhengbei had never seen someone who could lower the temperature of the god flame to such an extent. Yi Qinghan had played with the fire to the extreme. With a flick of Yi Qinghan's finger, the lid of the cauldron popped open. Golden light shot out in all directions. The soul-amassing pills inside were all pure gold in color, and their fragrance filled the air. This kind of pill had already surpassed the limit. Only a Saint Pill Master could achieve this. Just based on the gift that Yu Tsongxin gave him, not to mention a divine alchemist and a longevity pill, even if it was 10 times the price, he would still laugh. How could he have the face to accept someone else's gratitude? No need to thank me. I should be the one thanking you. Let's go and watch the Peerless Alchemist ceremony together. Yi Qinghan pursed his lips and smiled. At this moment, Yi Qinghan was in a very good mood. This was because the gift that Yu Zongxing gave him was none other than the longevity pill's recipe. It was priceless. Perhaps he found it in some ancient ruins by chance. One had to admit that his luck was truly heaven-defying to be able to find such a peerless treasure. The group quickly walked towards the center of the city. There was a huge plaza at the center of the city. It was hundreds of miles wide and could accommodate close to 10 million people. At this moment, it was already packed with people. There were countless divine alchemists on the official road. There were also quite a few divine alchemists. They all represented different clans, cities, and overlords. This time, every force had sent someone to participate. This wasn't just about the glory of the alchemists. It also decided where the Alchemist Association headquarters would be located. There was endless value hidden in the depths. Yi Qinghan walked in the center with the dark gold rod on his back. The other four stood guard around him, afraid that someone would suddenly make a move and expose his identity. There was almost no one who didn't know Nanyuan Zhengbei. He walked at the front and thought that Yi Qinghan and the others were his retainers. They all greeted him, hoping to get familiar with him. Nanyuan Zhengbei was quite easygoing and nodded in response. He wasn't like the other divine alchemists who were arrogant as if their eyes grew on their foreheads. With Nanyuan Zhengbei leading the way, the four quickly entered the plaza. At this moment, there were hundreds of Alchemist Association members helping to record and distribute identity tablets. Only those who had obtained an identity tablet could participate in the alchemist competition. However, if one wanted to participate, they had to prepare their own ingredients and pay 10,000 strands of faith money. Not everyone could participate. It was as if they had already discussed this beforehand, and they had stirred up the emotions of the alchemists in the plaza. Sure enough, a few neutral god alchemists walked over after a short while. They glared angrily at Yi Qinghan and the others. From today onwards, if any divine alchemist dares to work with the Fire Beacon City in the Yu clan, they will no longer be part of the Alchemist Guild. No one is allowed to associate with them. A powerful divine alchemist warned. Yi Qinghan exhaled a mouthful of turbid air and looked at Su Zhongxiao. He didn't expect this person to be so capable. With just a few words, he had caused him to be spurned by everyone in the world. Su Zhongxiao, for trash like you, I don't even want to gamble with you. Since you provoked me like this and everyone else spoke up for you, attacking the Fire Beacon City and the Yu clan, I'll say it right here. All of you are trash in terms of alchemy. If you don't accept it, I'll see you in the competition. If any one of you can win against my disciple, it'll be my loss. I'll apologize to all of you in front of everyone in the world. Yi Qinghan snorted coldly. This caused a huge uproar. At this time, there were at least 30 small powers surrounding the Yu clan and the Fire Beacon City. Although they weren't very powerful, they were still a terrifying power if they joined forces. After being humiliated by Yi Qinghan, they were immediately enraged. Those large powers god pill masters didn't want to interfere because of their status, but they were also hostile towards Yi Qinghan. The Medicine King Manor's few god pill masters stood alone in a corner. Around them, there were more than 10 Sector Lord Level 7 experts protecting them. No one dared to approach them. They were all attendants of the Pill Master Association, and their status wasn't much lower than Nanyuan Zhengbei. Moreover, their alchemy skills were definitely top-notch. The Medicine King, who was the leader, stood shoulder to shoulder with Nanyuan Zhengbei. At this moment, he stared at Yi Qinghan and said indifferently, "This person is too arrogant. He won't amount to much. I believe that he won't be able to enter the semifinals and will be eliminated. What do you all think?" Medicine King's eyes are sharp. He has never misjudged people. Since you said so, I, Zhou Xian, will naturally agree. A white-haired old man with a youthful face replied with a smile. We're all judges. Even if he has some ability, we can make him unable to enter the semifinals. Another strong great god pill master said in disdain. The group laughed but didn't say anything. They weren't interested in looking at Yi Qinghan anymore. Yi Qinghan hadn't expected that his words would cause these senior great alchemists to be so dissatisfied. They were even going to use their full strength to force him out of the semifinals. He was truly unlucky. Chapter 1740. The level 12 alchemist thought that they had reached an agreement, but the judge didn't dare to be so blatant. He could only sacrifice him and kick him out of the arena. Yi Qinghan didn't have any sympathy for him. This kind of trash shouldn't be able to survive in the alchemy world. If he had bad intentions, he would ruin things sooner or later. The competition continued. After half an hour, Qin Xianxian successfully congealed her pills. The second batch of pills came out with a total of 15 spirit congealing pills. She wasted some ingredients and the pills were of different grades. Half of them were low grade, 30% were middle grade, and only 20% were high-grade spirit congealing pills. Qin Xianxian took a deep breath, gathered her spirit, and continued to concoct pills. She used a total of 4 hours to concoct all 6 batches of pills. One batch was wasted, but her success rate was pretty good. One batch of spirit congealing pills was high grade, which gave her a lot of points. Advancing to the next round wasn't a problem. Nanyuan Zhengbei's divine sense swept past Qin Xianxian. His face was full of smiles. This kind of result had exceeded his expectations. Advancing to the next round was a sure thing. The others were still concocting pills. The judge had already given Qin Xianxian a score. According to the overall result, Qin Xuanxuan's time and product were considered good, but her score was very low. It was only average. Whether she could advance to the next round with such a score was still unknown. Yi Qinghan couldn't control the judge's score. Moreover, the score hadn't been announced yet. He didn't know what kind of score it was. Everything would only be known after the others finished. 100,000 people couldn't compete at the same time. There were only 10,000 people in this round. The first round of the competition would take 2 days. After Qin Xianxian finished her first round of competition, Yi Qinghan brought her back to the Yu clan to cultivate. With the help of Qin Xuanxuan's yin and yang balance, they cultivated the dual cultivation technique. Not only did it help Qin Xianxian increase her strength and perfect her control of the fire source, it also helped Yi Qinghan control the blue demon fire and increase his vitality. In these 3 days, they didn't leave the room. Both of them improved quite a bit. At this point, Qin Fenghua no longer wanted to interfere with Qin Xuanxuan's actions. He hoped that Qin Xianxian would be able to conquer Yi Qinghan and keep him in Fire Beacon City. Therefore, the two of them were not disturbed during their cultivation. Yi Qinghan was a virgin after all, and was also a Sector Lord Level 6 expert. Yi Qinghan had benefited a lot recently, and his control of the blue demon flame was almost perfect. On the 3rd day, the announcement of the advancement time for the first round of the Alchemy Master Competition was made. Nanyuan Zhengbei held the results and asked coldly, "Sir, her results are like this." Zhou Jing bowed in fear. Nanyuan Zhengbei asked in disdain, "Are you saying that I am blind?" That day, I saw with my own eyes that she refined 1 batch of high-grade pills and 2 batches of middle-grade pills. However, these pills have all been swapped out. They are all low-grade and useless pills. Are you saying that I am senile in front of everyone? Boom. Zhou Jing did not expect Nanyuan Zhengbei to notice Qin Xuanxuan's results. He was so frightened that he immediately knelt on the ground and kowtowed like a chick pecking at rice. "Vice President, I also do not know what is going on. Perhaps I took the wrong pill. I am really innocent." Zhou Jing did not dare to admit that he was bribed. He could only insist that he took the wrong pill. Otherwise, it would not only implicate him and Su Zhongxiao, but also the people from Medicine King Manor. He did not have the guts to do so. The people from Medicine King Manor who received the bribe did not dare to look Nanyuan Zhengbei in the eye. They also did not dare to speak up for Nanyuan Zhengbei. They were afraid that they would spill the beans and get into trouble. Nanyuan Zhengbei threw the results to Zhou Zheng and questioned coldly, "You said that you took the wrong pill. Do you want 100,000 people to compete again? I will give you one more chance to speak the truth. Otherwise, I will kill you." Zhou Zheng trembled as he kowtowed and begged for mercy. However, he was still unwilling to change his words. Su Zhongxiao did not dare to say anything more. After all, he was the instigator of this matter. At this moment, Medicine King Manor's manor head walked over from afar with a smile on his face. It was like a spring breeze that dispelled his anger. he said calmly. Shinbei, you made a mistake in your haste. Your crime does not warrant death. There is no need to pursue it further. Since Miss Qin's results are wrong, let her take the test alone. I will personally be the examiner. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.